You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Today's Body Charge podcast is about the life-changing impact of emotional catastrophe. What happens to our emotional self when we encounter a major life-changing shift hit the fan moment? That's right, shift hit the fan. What happens when a marriage fails or a business partner you trusted does the dirty on you? What happens when life serves up something very different from the expectation you had had in your mind? My special guest today, John Lawyer, has been able to transform from a soldier in desert combat zones to a battle within and eventually to become a spiritual seeker. He acts as one of many guides for Kishar, a non-profit online spiritual community for people to share their journey and explore their own unique spiritual path. John is an Omnist and believes in the validity of great human thought from around the world and across time. I like that idea. We shouldn't be limited, should we? Truth has no bounds, or shouldn't have any bounds, or censorship. So my first question, John, welcome. I'm very happy to have you on board today's podcast because these are really important issues today for people. We're human beings and we have emotional needs, and we can be very hurt emotionally. That can affect all levels of health. Emotional issues and obstacles and obstructions and traumas can very much incapacitate our health and make us very sick. So this is one of the reasons why I'm very interested in your particular journey. So how did you learn to cope as a retired soldier? What kind of cognitive dissonance was going on in your mind after your experience in the field? And then you came back, and what was going through your mind when you referred to a battle within? Tell us about that battle.
Yeah, I think that, when you're, when I was over there and I was a young soldier when I first started to experience some of these things, the fear and the trauma that comes with just knowing that something can happen to you. It's not anything that is this. Most of the time it's this low grade thing, and you don't notice it as much. And then, there might be big things that happen along that same timeline and path where, okay, maybe there's a missile attack or something like that. That's a big trauma, and you notice it, but then again, you also don't notice it because it happens. And then you have your kind of physiological response to it. And then you kind of move on because you've got to do things. You've got to keep doing your job and be brave because they tell you to be brave, and they teach you to not show fear and to not acknowledge your emotions, right? That's kind of like ingrained into us, I think, a little bit by society. But
teach you to bottle it up. Done.
Yeah.
Be a man. Suck it up.
Yeah. To the extent that that's actually, you mentioning that makes me think about my own unit. We were counterintelligence special agents, and we were one of the most deployed units in the entire United States military after 9/11. We had soldiers in like 20 different countries, and our operations tempo over the years was just come home, go back, come home, go back. And we all had top secret security clearances, and we weren't really allowed at the time. They didn't really allow us to go seek mental health or therapy because they would revoke our security clearance. They fixed that in the last 20 years, but we were taught to bottle it up for sure. And so you do that, you keep going, and then you come back home and you go do it again, and then rinse and repeat, And
do you think sorry for interrupting, but do you think
that
the constant activity or a distraction was a way, some kind of way, maybe not the best way, but a way to cope with the inner conflict of being there and the trauma and seeing innocent people suffer, become injured, killed, and your friends and your colleagues becoming injured? There's a kind of loss of innocence, isn't there? There's loss of innocence, and you need to deal with that, but then you can't because the danger is imminent. You have to become active, do something, protect yourself. So you have to be able to sidestep and, keep the ball rolling and get your job done, as you mentioned. And so you keep accumulating this bottleneck of things that need to be dealt with. And, over time, I guess it could get bigger and bigger until you finally get a pause. You get a moment where you can sit down and rest and relax, and there's no more danger. And then your mind starts to flood. Is that what happened to you when you came back? You felt, okay, now I'm in a safe place. I'm back in my own country. I'm in my home. I can relax and have a break. So tell us about what happens in that process. How does the mind unleash that bottleneck inside?
Yeah, I love that whole series there, because and there's definitely a loss of innocence and loss of youth. So I definitely want to affirm what you were saying there, and I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of war for soldiers too. But getting back to coming home, I think that the unraveling of it, is we kept going back, and so we kept avoiding it, yeah, and sidestepping it, like you said. And when you come home, suddenly you have to face something. I don't think that I was even personally sure what I had to face. Did I have to face myself? Did I have to face being part of the evils of the Western military industrial complex? Did I have to face all the pain and suffering that I was on the receiving end of, and that I was also on the dealing end of as a soldier? Or, so all these things definitely.
Did you have feelings of guilt in that process? You
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, mentioned being
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of that big machinery. You helped it
yeah.
along, even though you weren't prepared or didn't really understand the full implication of what it was all about. Your body, your arms and legs, you still were part of it. So how did you deal with that guilt?
That was a big part of it for me. One of my jobs in Afghanistan was to choose targets and choose which compound our guys were going to go and raid and capture someone, or pick targets to drop bombs on. And um you can try to justify it and equivocate it and say that, oh, well, I was saving lives and protecting people, when I was, but at the same time we were hurting people that were just humans trying to live their lives and put food on their table and protect what they thought was their own. And so, yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount of guilt that came along with all of this. And from what I've seen from other soldiers and people, some have a stronger reaction based on, I think humans have different levels of empathy and connection to the universe and people around them. And I think I have a pretty high degree of that. And I know a few other people around me that
So you
had
have
similar.
empathy for others, the suffering of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And that takes a real toll, so it's not just the toll that it's taken on your body. There's a physical toll and a mental toll from all of it. And there's that emotional toll and it's a spiritual toll of, you know, living in that darkness for so long, and coming to terms with that. So yeah, that was a big part of figuring out who I was and what I was and where I was going when I got back home.
Yes. So tell us about, so you've gone through this issue, you've had emotional conflicts, trying to resolve the why of something, trying to find out, because you sound like a really good person, having empathy for others is a very high spiritual quality, and is something that I would like to see encouraged. That's what makes us real humans. And, when people refer to he's not behaving like a human, that means he's more like, or she, more like a robot, devoid or cut off from that empathy. And so, that maybe selecting, that maybe trying to, the war machine is trying to select people who are less human and less empathetic and less connected with their human side, so they can be like super soldiers, like robots. And I believe they're even trying to develop robotic technology to mimic, to take the place of real humans. It's really an awful futuristic dystopian scenario, isn't it? And yeah, hopefully we don't go down that track too far. Hopefully the real humans stand up and realize, from the loss of the innocence, from the pain and the suffering, that we don't need to do this. We don't need to go down that pathway. There is something other that's better and that's good and that's rewarding for everyone on the planet, every human being. And this leads us to then that spiritual destiny that you will have discovered on your journey. So you've had this crisis happen in your life. How did you move towards resolving it or feeling some kind of healing process on your emotional side?
I think that the first thing that helps is time. They say time heals all wounds, and I think there's wisdom there. So I think time was helpful as part of it. I can't underestimate that. But then I had been with a person in the VA, a counselor of mine that practiced Eastern faith and medicine, and she had helped me kind of see that path a little bit. I didn't live it. I wasn't on a spiritual path after that. I wasn't healed enough to take full and wrap myself around it and use it as fully as I could have. But I think it set something in motion in me. And so after I was home for 7 years, it kind of took me 7 years to calm down enough to kind of get to a place where I was able to heal a lot. And then I had a kind of moment of awakening or understanding or clarity. There's many words for it, but it was just kind of this understanding of oneness with the universe and with everyone and everything, and loving kindness. And I kind of understood what my purpose in the world was, my higher purpose, my dharma. And that's what set me on the spiritual path that I've been on for a little over 2 years now.
Yes, so we can't always avoid disaster or catastrophe or crises, can we? And when, looking backwards, 2020 hindsight is always the clearest, isn't it? We sometimes understand how things fit in. And then if that hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have had this kind of evolution in our own thinking and become better and more refined. They say we get forged by the fire, like steel gets forged by the fire. And, it can go two ways. I mean, it can totally destroy people, and, they cannot live out their life fully and fulfill their divine mission that they came here to do. Or they can rise above that inner spirit rises above the physical, which seems to me what you've actually done with your life. When you talk about oneness and going within and finding your mission, your dharma, the idea of which everyone is here for a purpose, a big purpose. In our own circle of activity, we find that groove, and that when there are things to learn that we haven't, if we have a belief which is fictitious or false or innocent, we've grabbed hold of an idea, but it's not right, it's not real, and we move along that path. Crisis comes across that path to teach us, no, this is not the way you're supposed to go. It's false, it's wrong, and it's painful. And the pain wakes us up in a sense, doesn't it? Or it should wake us up to be able to reflect and to have a look at everything from many different sides independently. And as you said, with time, we get to have that little bit more of an objective perspective. When we look at our time further back, it's like looking at another person, and that gives us a better perspective, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. And I think perspective is really important, right? Because how we're coming at the world and around us, the reality and the universal whole, how we come out about that from what perspective changes how we see things.
So now you've been forged in the fire. You've strengthened your inner steel, and now you've become part of a spiritual community which is helping other people grapple with the same kinds of issues of, and it may not have been that they were a soldier in a crisis. Maybe they were in a train accident or some other kind of catastrophe, an earthquake, a fire, a flood. Lots of things can happen in our lives where we lose loved ones, and it's totally unexpected. And it's, we feel in a sense lost and disconnected, and abandoned, and where's our footing, where's our ground, what can we rely on, what can we trust, who can we trust? There's a period of time where people are in very, very emotionally distraught state, and they need some kind of stability or anchor, or at least listening to other people's stories and how they've resolved something similar that gets them on the path of, well, if other people have overcome these issues, then maybe I can too. Is that what your community does online?
Yeah, that's a beautiful description of community you just gave. And I think, yeah, that's what that we created this community to do, is for people to share, to see things, to be the teacher and be the taught. And we all have our own unique journey, our own unique path. It's not going to look the same as anyone else's, and that's okay. But maybe it doesn't have to be lonely, it doesn't have to be this bleak thing. It can be warmer, and we can still go find answers together. And that's what we wanted to create with this nonprofit community we created.
Yeah, so in a sense, I also came across or developed my business Elektra Magnesium, which is transdermal absorption of magnesium, because I had a health crisis. I had things in my life kind of falling apart, financial crisis in the GFC of 2008. Lots of things happened which impacted me, and I'm very conscientious and I like to do the right thing. And I wasn't able to fulfill what I thought were my obligations, and it caused a great internal distress, which made me very sick. So the more stress you have, the more you lose magnesium in your urine. And the lower the magnesium in your tissue cells, the less everything functions, from the nervous system to, energy levels, and you can't sleep very well. And it's very difficult to function when you don't have enough magnesium, the most important mineral to the body for your metabolism. And so I feel now I'm in my zone, or in what I'm meant to do. There's the feeling of I'm anchored into something really big. It's important. I feel great. I can't wait to get up in the morning, to get stuck in the day, to get another job done. I don't feel I'm working. I feel like, well, I'm working, of course. I'm working very hard, but I so enjoy what I'm doing because of the feedback people are giving me. Because, what goes around comes around, doesn't it? If you're finally in your zone of what you need to be doing, life flows. There are no obstacles, or obstacles are easy to get around, bypass. Obstacles are there sometimes to make something better. So I look at the world in a completely different way. Like, everything that happens is meant to be, and I'm meant to get something out of it. So I'm very much now me focused, and it's not in a selfish way. It's an understanding that I have power through spirit, through making a spiritual moral decision of things that are right and wrong, that are truthful, discerning what's not truthful, and standing in that ground. So empowering. It's so empowering. I can't recommend it enough to others. But first of all, before you get into your mind, you need to relax the body. So if you've become stressed or ill or sick because of nutritional deficiency, because you got worn down, you've had a burnout from too much stress, then really start to take care of yourself. Take care of your physical body. Make sure you have enough rest, enough sleep. It's self-caring that's really important. It's like the oxygen mask in the plane. If there's a problem, sure, you have to put it on your own mouth first, get your own oxygen, and then you can help other people as well. And so that's right. The message I think we all have to learn, to make sure that we look after ourselves and our families and our immediate communities. And then, there's an old saying, take care of the pennies and the pounds take care of themselves, in the old fashioned times when they had pennies and pounds as currency. It's about looking after the micro level, the closest thing to you, where you have the most impact and the most power. And that's with yourself first, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree with that. I think you and I sound like we're very kindred spirits in our approach to everything. And I absolutely think that self-love and self-care is the absolute first thing that we should do, because if we don't
Because
take
we're
care of
worth it.
ourselves, we can't. Yeah, we're worth it, and we can't help anybody else or the world around us if we're not lit up ourselves. And so, and I appreciate the holistic aspect of it too, because I think that word, people think it's cliche now, so a little bit, but it's a cliche for a reason. It works. Like mind, body, soul. You have to take care of your physical, real world body. We're not going to just float away into the ether. You know, we're going to have to live here in the real world. So, and taking care of our body, I think, is a really important part of that. I mean, I'm personally attest to the VA did a blood test on me. I was massively low in vitamin D, and
Yeah.
they started to give me vitamin D supplements. Changed my life.
Yeah. Vitamin D works
Something simple
together.
like that.
It works together with magnesium. You have to have a lot of
Exactly.
magnesium to use your vitamin D. And if you don't, then you can get too much calcium flowing through the system, which makes us stiff and hard and crunchy because
Right.
there's not enough magnesium to balance it out. So magnesium is your relaxing mineral that helps keep
Right.
things fluid and flexible and juicy. So younger, it's the anti-aging mineral as well.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a big revelation to understand how important it is to look after your body. And too many times, you know, we get assaulted by media and advertisements and junk food and chemicals and additives. And today, more than ever, we are exposed to way too many toxins in the environment, and they just sneak them in here or there. You have to become a very good label reader in the supermarket, or, you know, avoid packaged foods altogether if you can, and go organic, and, you know, have that, as you said, holistic approach as much as possible. I mean, you can't actually block out everything. And your body is capable of dealing with some, you know, toxins and wastes and eliminating them. But the question is the load. How much load can you take? And so it's very important, I think, to pay attention to body, mind, spirit. We are human beings. At the end of the day, I look at the body as a vehicle, like your car. You put the good oil in and you make sure you use the right kind of fuel, and, you know, it's got water and the electrics are working and your tires are not bald. You make sure that the car's maintained well. Why? Why? Because you want to have a reliable vehicle to get from A to B, to do your stuff, to do things you have to do, to work, to live. We need to be mobile, and we need our body to be mobile. And nothing brought this to my mind more than my mother passed away in September. And at the end of July, she lost the use of her legs. And it went very quickly after that because she couldn't move her body. She was neglected in the nursing home. They didn't move her or turn her enough. They didn't give her enough fluid or hydration. The food they gave her was just junk and stodgy, high carb foods, and it just dehydrated her whole system. And she lost use of her legs. The blood circulation wasn't working. She developed clots and pulmonary embolism. That's finally got her the clots, because she didn't breathe. And that's all because the body was getting clogged and stuck and didn't move oxygen and nutrients around the body. So the vehicle is extremely important. Despite her spirit being very, you know, strong, she was a fighting spirit, the body let her down, because for a long time, for decades before that, she didn't pay enough attention to self-care.
Right.
She was self-sacrificing too much, always for other people, and she was last and neglected herself. And so there was a lesson. There's a lesson for everyone. I know she'll be looking down from heaven somewhere in the other dimension, watching us like watching a soap opera on TV, like they all do. Apparently, we are spiritual electrical beings. That electricity carries information. Information can be stored even in water molecules. So, we have information all around us in the ether. And so fascinating, probably another topic altogether, the area of cosmology and who we are really. We're spiritual beings having a temporary spacesuit in this body, having an adventure, having a game, the game of life, and learning how to play it better. Is that how you would wrap it up? How would you summarize everything?
No, I think that's a good way to say it. I think that I love the idea that there's information all around us in the ether. I really appreciate that. I believe in that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that we are all the same thing. So we all started from stardust, and we're all very one thing. So that's my subscription.
Yeah, very good, very good. So thank you very much for being my special guest today. And it was really lovely to have that insight into your personal experience. I'm sure these things will help a lot of people, these ideas, and the knowledge that there are always solutions. My husband always said to me, when I was facing decisions about what to do, this or that, he said, "You ever had a problem you couldn't solve?" And I thought about it. I thought, no, not really. So that kind of gave me a bit of confidence. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just having that self-confidence, or bouncing off someone else who can just be a coach or a moral support, or, a cheer squad, you can do this kind of thing. We need other people to give us that reinforcement. I think that's part of that spiritual journey. We are not an island. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to do things
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah, 100%.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. And you have a great day. And I hope all the listeners really enjoyed this as I have.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.